Hello and welcome to Safe Schools. I'm Curtis Graves.
And I'm Andy Howard.
Andy, we have a great show today. We're going to be talking to a gentleman who runs this city in the terms of dealing with law enforcement issues.
I think that's important. I think that's going to be a great show. And I think he's got a lot of important things to say. And I'm looking forward to hearing our Chief of Police, Chief Lawrence Battiste.
And with that, we'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Kyla Brown, and I am redefining ready. I'm taking AP and dual enrollment courses that will help me earn college credits while in high school. I am studying dental science that will assist me in my career choice of becoming a dentist. I am a Student Government Association representative and actively involved in other activities around my school and community. And this is how I am redefining ready.
It's a fact. Bullying happens. Bullying can lead to serious physical and emotional pain, but there are some things you can do to prevent or stop it. Stand up for the person who's being bullied. Let the bully know that it's not cool to pick on others. Take action by reporting the bully to a teacher or principal. In the end, when you help someone who's being bullied, you're also helping yourself.
Hello and welcome back. Chief Battiste, Lawrence Battiste, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me today.
We're really excited and pleased to have you here today. I think it's important that our audience knows that you're a product of the Mobile County Public School System.
Red Raider, BC Rain.
Yes, sir. Once you left BC Rain, the Red Raiders, what'd you do next?
You know, I graduated from high school and went over to Bishop for about a year, played around, and you know, as most parents would like for their kids to go on to higher education after they graduate, I went over to Bishop. I played around. I did what young people do, and that wasn't working out so well. So I decided to go in the Navy. So I spent 5 years in the Navy upon graduating from high school. I was a dental assistant in the Navy. Imagine that, of all things.
Okay. Oh, pause for a second.
That should have been proper preparation for a police career.
Hey,
dental
great.
assistant, yeah.
Great preparation. I mean, you know, I really enjoyed it. I mean, that was actually my plans. You know, I got in law enforcement surely by accident. Really, I graduated when I got out of the Navy. I came back home. I was working. I was married, had a daughter. And I needed a way to provide for my family. And so I took the law enforcement exam. And when I took the exam, you know, you had a whole bunch of people telling me like, well, man, you know, you're not going to get hired if you put in for the sheriff's office because they don't hire nobody but people from MPD. And so I was like, man, look, I'm going to apply for the sheriff's office. And they hired me. And certainly it was a great experience for me. It had to be my calling. 29 years later, here I am as the chief of police in the city of Mobile. I've been the chief someplace for the last 14 years of my career. It's really been a great career for me. I really enjoy and love what I'm doing. And I've found ways to give back to this community in ways that I didn't even know existed by being in law enforcement.
Absolutely.
That's well said, Chief. You know, we can talk about your career for the entire show, but we won't. Because the reality is that I know you came here with some important issues you want to talk about. And some of those issues have to do with the community more than anything else. And the strength of law enforcement and what your hopes are for this agency, the Mobile Police Department. So let's dive right into it.
Well, let's start talking about the strengths of the Mobile Police Department to begin with. You know, when I took the helm of the chief of police here in the city of Mobile, I think one of the very first things that I said is, one, we have a very great department. And we do. We have men and women that are better educated today than they ever were. We have men and women that are more committed to serving the community in ways that they didn't even know exist at the time. Real commitment. And you know, the thing that I try to make sure that the community knows more than anything else is that the men and women of the Mobile Police Department are vested in the community. They have families in this community. They coach Little League football and baseball in this community. They attend church in this community. They pay their taxes in this community. They're vested in the community. They have a real desire to see the city of Mobile and Mobile County as a whole grow. So we work each and every day to make sure that those things happen. And a lot of these men and women that work for us, they do the extra stuff. They do the stuff that goes beyond the 8-hour or the 12-hour shift that they have to show their level of commitment to this city. And so that's really important when you start thinking about an agency like ours. And then the next thing is the different programs that we put on at the Mobile Police Department. I often hear people talk about, well, they're doing this in New York or they're doing this in California. But we're doing so many things here in the city of Mobile that really is blazing the trail. You know, the Second Chance or Else to Score program, that is a national program that began here in the city of Mobile that was recognized by the Attorney General office under the Obama administration, that talked about what we were doing and how we were engaging in the community and giving low-level offenders an opportunity to write their path before they got that felony conviction on their arrest record. And that's been very impactful. It's grown with the relationship that we've developed in our community. I make this term, and I say it quite a bit, that relationships were built for times of crisis, not in times of crisis. Nobody sits down and
be there.
That's it. Right. If there's a crisis and there hasn't been any relationship building prior to the crisis, there's no conversation taking place. There's a lot of yelling and screaming back and forth across the table, but no real relationships that are really being built at that time. And so I think that this community does a really good job of trying to build those relationships way out in advance of any crisis occurring, because by sheer nature of the job that we do, there are going to be situations that occur that are going to cause conflict with the community about how it was handled. But if we've already developed a dialogue, we've already developed a level of trust that needs to take place prior to those incidents occurring, we'll find a way to talk our way through them, and we'll find a way to bring a peaceful resolution for the community as a whole as we move forward. And so those are things that we've done. Those are things that we'll continue to do. In making sure that not only are we telling people what we need them to do, but making sure we're listening to them when they tell us what they want us to do, because that's important as well. They need to know that when they ask us for something, that we're in tune, we're listening, and we're willing to at least look at our policies and procedures to see if we're doing what's best practices and what should be done for the betterment of our community.
Dialogue is really
Correct.
important. That not only do you tell them, the police, to the community, what you want, what you're looking for, and what you're trying to accomplish and achieve, but the community communicating with the police and
Correct.
talking about those same things, because it's the collaboration.
Correct. Commander Graves, who's over our strategic initiatives with the department, we've kicked off, actually at the direction of the mayor, to address trauma in our community. It's called Project Thrive. And as we deal with trauma, for a long time, I think the 5 years that I served with the youth court in Mobile, I started looking at the ideal of trauma and the impact of trauma and how people grieve. And many times when people are grieving, they don't get the attention that they need. Nobody ever really talks to them about, what actually occurred in their life. And I can give you a story of, there was a young man about 2 weeks ago, 14 years of age. He took his own life. And then when he took his own life, one of the things we immediately look back is about 7 years ago, his father killed his mother, and then his father killed himself. And that young man, I could guarantee you, if we talked about it today, that nobody ever sit down and talk to that young man about what he was experiencing to cause him to take his life some 8 years later. That's
trauma
impactful.
that never got resolved.
Never got resolved. And so that's impactful. And violence perpetuates violence. If you don't talk about the violence that's occurred, whether you're a victim or whether you're a perpetrator, it's going to perpetuate itself in some way if we don't deal with the issues at hand and have candid conversations about what actually took place.
If you don't fix it, it'll stay broke.
Correct.
We're going to take a break for a moment, and we're going to be right back.
more parents are involved in school, the more likely it is a child will succeed. Children with involved parents and attend school regularly make better grades and have better social skills. Every involved parent makes a difference.
Get involved.
Ask about your child's day.
Explain how your education matters. Parent involvement, it matters.
You can find more information on parent involvement at mcpss.com.
And we're back. Chief, let's continue this conversation about the issues that are important to you.
You know, I think we ended the last segment talking a little bit about trauma and the unresolved issues around trauma. And again, you know, having been a military vet, you know, when we send our soldiers downrange, when they come back, we always have a debrief for them. And we actually have them spend some time at a demob site debriefing, talking about what their experiences happened to be. But we have children that live in households where domestic violence takes place every day.
No one's being debriefed.
Right, and they're not being debriefed. They show up to school the next day and they act out in school. And you know, they're acting out because they need attention. They need somebody to talk to about what they witnessed last night. But nobody's talking to them. And I'm not saying it's a school system problem.
Right.
It's a community problem that
problem.
we need to be figuring out how can we deal with the trauma that young person has experienced. We have incidents that occur in people's communities where you see crime scene tape and blood left on the ground, and kids have to walk to school past that crime scene tape or that blood on the ground. And what are we doing to make sure that these young people are being debriefed about what they saw? We've got to do a better job as a community to address those concerns. And again, I'm not putting it on anybody's shoulder. I'm saying as a community, there's almost 200,000 of us that lives in the city of Mobile. We all have a role to play in making sure that we address those kind of issues, because we're only as strong as the weakest links in our community. Our community suffers when anybody in our community is suffering. And so we've got to make sure that we do everything we can to bring everybody along the way.
And that's why Project Thrive is so important.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about Project Thrive and the collaborations that we're trying to form under the arm of the police department and the city of Mobile in collaboration?
Well, you know, the biggest thing about Project Thrive is that the collaboration that exists. The University of South Alabama, the Mobile County Public School System, Mobile Police Department, Mobile County Health Department,
School system.
All of those people that are sitting at the table, they have their own experiences that they know about, but we're sitting there at the table talking about these experiences together, and what can we do to intervene? Too many times we only really deal with trauma when somebody's actually dies. But what about the person that's in their bed or in their bed at night and somebody fires a shot and the bullet goes through their house? You got maybe a 10-year-old girl that happens to be asleep and all of a sudden she's awakened by the bullet coming through her house. That's traumatic. And so having those conversations about what can we do to help that young lady, having a conversation about the guy that shows up at the hospital with a gunshot wound, but he or she doesn't die, but nobody reaches out to the family and say, what can we do to help you get past this particular incident that just occurred in your life? And those are the things that Project Thrive will do for our community, is making sure that those people that are victims are getting somebody, at least have access to somebody to talk to them about what has just occurred in their lives and what can we do to help them move forward.
So what would a citizen do that finds themselves, and I think a lot of citizens know that they're not okay or they're going through something. How might a citizen acquire this help or reach out?
Well, one of the things that we're doing at the police department is actually we're creating incidents where we're creating a team that whenever someone happens to be a victim of a gunshot wound or something like that that we actually send a team out and say, these are the services that are available to you as you move forward. Now the one thing that we have to get beyond as a community, in particular those in the minority communities, get beyond the stigma of talking to somebody, a social worker or somebody that talks about trauma, too many times we don't want nobody to know that something's bothering us.
They think you're getting in their business.
There you go. So we've got to get beyond that part and say that it's healthy to have those conversations. It doesn't make you crazy. It doesn't make you more of a suspect or anything like that. It makes you somebody that has experienced a traumatic experience, that's reaching out for help, that's being offered to you, because there are a lot of great programs here in the city of Mobile. Again, every entity that I named, the school system, the police department, the health department, University of South, they have great programs. Too many times people won't reach out and take advantage of the programs. Yes. And so we've got to do a better job of doing that. The research on the websites, when somebody knocks on your door and say, I have this to offer you, don't always be so skeptical to think that they're trying to take something away from you.
Yeah.
Listen to what they have to
Might
say
actually
for you.
want to help you.
Correct. And so, you know, and even if you're a parent, you know, you may be okay, but your children may not. You know, if that bullet goes through your house, as a parent, you can say, I'm fine. And you may be fine as a parent, but the child may not be. And you need to make sure that you're giving your child every opportunity to be successful, because that trauma will go with him or her
or maybe
for
they're
a
not
long
okay.
time.
I well remember a conversation I had with a parent at your alma mater. I called mom because daughter needed some help, and mom said, you know what, you're right, but guess what, me too. I'm not okay either, you know.
Right.
And so we do have to try to change minds.
And one of the important things too with Project Thrive, which is out of my office, is to identify those victims before they become perpetrators of crimes, or before they become victims again. Re-victimization is real, and it happens often if there's no immediate interaction or conversation with that affected person. Some of the most important conversations are never discussed.
Right. I would agree with that. And, you know, we've talked about, you know, some of the good things at the Mobile Police Department. We've talked about some of the programs, but, you know, I'd also like to talk about the idea that people getting engaged in our community. You know, a couple of things that we do to get people engaged is we have what we call a Citizens Academy. It's really important to what we do as a police department, and you can get engaged. We have 2 classes a year. We just graduated our last class, but it gives you a different perspective as a resident here in the city of Mobile. Gives you an opportunity to learn firsthand what we do. It's a 12-week program where you spend 2 hours a week learning about the different areas in the Mobile Police Department. And again, it's not to brainwash anybody, but to give you a perspective that's different from the one that you may always have. We have people that have gone into it with, you know, I don't trust the police department. And then they've spent some time in the Citizen Academy, come out and say, wow, I didn't realize all those things took place. You know, I didn't realize that you dealt with these issues. We want people to know what we do, and we want people to know why we do what we do, because that's as important as anything else.
Stop assuming and guess and find out.
Come be a part. There's a place for you. It's like my dad say from the pulpit. He says there's a program that they give you when you come in the door. Find yourself in that program. We're doing something at the Mobile Police Department that can engage somebody in our community. So many different programs, Project Shields, how people can in their own community get engaged. We can't solve the problem of crime and become the safest city in America without the help of the community here. It takes everybody being actively engaged and doing their part to make sure that we become the safest city. We're going to respond to crime. We're going to respond to incidents happening. But in order to take our community back, neighborhoods are going to have to take back their neighborhoods. Those individuals that have victimized neighborhoods, there are going to have to be people in those neighborhoods to stand up and say, enough is enough. And if we see you doing something, we're going to report what you're doing. And not only are we going to report it to the police, but you know what? I remember those days when I took 2 pears off somebody's tree walking home one day, and somebody saw me do it. And they called my mom's house. And man, I got in trouble. I ain't gonna say what I did. I don't know if the statute of limitations went out on my mama at this point. But I got in trouble for taking pears off that lady's tree simply because I didn't ask her for them. And they were pears that was gonna most likely fall to the ground. But if I had asked, I probably would have gotten them. We've got to get back to the point where people see things happening and they speak up and they say something to the parents. Say, look, your child did this, because it may save somebody's life. It may save somebody's child from going to prison later on down the road.
And with that being said, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
We've established a culture of innovation here at Mary V. Austin. We've made it our goal to disrupt the status quo of traditional learning as we prepare our students for their future in this global society. We call our students the Austin Innovators because we want to develop outside-the-box thinkers. We want to develop students who think critically, who think entrepreneurially, and who can collaborate well with others. Our focus is entirely on our students and engaging them in meaningful, real-world learning experiences. Here at Austin, we've been able to do this through our seamless integration of project-based and service learning, the Talents Unlimited model for critical and creative thinking, design thinking and digital literacy through our emerging technologies and communication labs, integration of fine arts, and a focus on 21st century skills and entrepreneurship.
And we're back. Chief, let's shift gears a little bit more, and let's talk about where we are as a department with Mobile PD right now. Personnel, every police department across this country deals with attrition. Where are we with that?
We're no different than no other agency. We're considered a large department because of the number of personnel we employ. But when you deal with attrition, when you lose anywhere from 30 to 60 officers a year, that's a very large turnover. We've experienced that consistently for the last 3 years. We've had that kind of turnover. We've replaced the officers, but the problem is we need them, and it takes a lot to train an officer. I mean, it takes about a good 3 to 5 years to get a good seasoned officer. It's like buying a skillet, you go buy that skillet and you got to let it marinate and get the oil in it. So,
talk about the academy, because that's what you're going into right now. You're talking about the training. What does that consist of?
So the academy is a 16-week academy process. The officers come in, and each day they're learning about constitutional law, they're learning about firearms proficiency, they're learning about how to interact with the public. There's a community service aspect of our academy that we implemented almost 3 years ago that they have to be engaged in. And so all of these things helps us round out and build out an officer. Proper handcuffing techniques, proper use of an aspeton if they're going to use it. Everything that we do, pepper spray, everything that we do as a department, those new recruits have to learn about it. And then after they've completed their 16 weeks of training in the classroom, there's an additional 8 to 12 weeks that they spend what we call PTO, Patrol Training Officer, where they're actually paired up with a senior officer out in patrol. And so it takes about 6 months to actually get somebody through a program, and they're riding in a car. Probably around that 9th month, they started to go solo. They're on their own. And so we have a 1-year evaluation period on all of our officers, and it's important that all our officers go through this process because we want to make sure that we're training them as best we can with the dynamics of our community changing, understanding the cultural sensitivities that are associated with the different communities that we police in. We're a very big city geographically, but there are a lot of different cultural differences in many of the communities that we deal with. Some communities talk a lot with their hands, and that can be considered offensive. Some people, are loud. They talk really loud, and that some people can consider that threatening or offensive. We need to make sure that our officers understand the different dynamics of the cultures that exist in the city of Mobile. Mayor Stimpson has said this, and he says that we're on the verge of becoming something that we've never been in the city of Mobile. We're growing. We're experiencing a change. We want people that if they feel like something is not the way it ought to be within the Mobile Police Department, we're hiring. Come be a part of the change that's taking place at the city of Mobile. In particular at the Mobile Police Department. Over the last 3 years, we have done a lot of things differently than we've done them historically. We've stopped doing just what's traditional and started doing things that'll help us grow and help us develop better relationships in our community. And ultimately, our job is to enforce the laws that have been handed down by the legislature, and as well by our city officials. We will do that part, but we also want to make sure we're doing it in a way that that's respectful to the community that we serve. You know, our motto is safest city in America, but with respect for all. And so we will do our part to make sure that we do that. We ask that you as citizens do your part, engage with us, give us an opportunity to serve you in the way that you deserve to be served.
And with that being said, Chief, we have a few more minutes left in this programming. But one of the things that the city's doing right now, they're trying to create an incentive for law enforcement officers within the city of Mobile. I think a first-time buyers, homeowners initiative of some type. Can you speak on that now, or do we need to wait before we talk
Probably
about that?
wait on that. I think I'd like to speak on the subject of the incentive that we provide. You know, we have a Mobile Police Department Foundation, and one of the things that we're hoping that'll happen with our foundation is that we'll have people that will contribute to that foundation that will help us incentivize some of the things that we do. We've looked at other foundations across the country. Atlanta has a very robust foundation where they offer their officers like a $5,000 signing bonus to sign on with them. They also help them in the area of housing, first-time home buyers, things of that nature there. So we're looking at how we can build something like that here in the city of Mobile through our foundation, get people to contribute so that, one, it'll help us with our attrition and it helped us attract even better educated officers. Again, you know, high school diploma, GED will get you in the door at the Mobile Police Department. But if you expect to advance, if you expect to have a very illustrious career at the police department, you need to be working every year to improve your level of education and training within the department.
I do want you to talk a little bit about that, because part of our audience is, of course, our kids. And so as our kids are listening to this conversation, I'm sure hopefully some of those kids say, I want to be a policeman. Talk to that.
And we want them. We actually have a cadet program where young people that graduate from high school, we've increased those numbers each year. We're up to 16 cadet positions within the Mobile Police Department. You can hire in right out of high school. Hopefully our partnership that we've developed with LaFleur High School will at least encourage some of those individuals that participate in their program, will actually end up hiring on as cadets with us. So we have opportunities for immediate employment out of high school through our cadet program, and we're hoping that that through the partnership that we developed with Mobile County Public School System, that we'll be able to steer some of those young people into the area of law enforcement.
And really Chief, with that being said, we're going to wrap up. We're going to say thank you for coming on. It's been a great conversation, and we hope to see you again on the show.
Well, thank y'all. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Maybe the next time you can talk about your football career.
Hey.
It's been safe schools. Thank you.
Thank you.